All right, there's another week of high school football, and as we determined on the walk down here, this is Blue Week. We're all wearing some form of blue.
Yeah.
So that's probably good for Conley, maybe Washington.
Yeah.
A little bit of Rose.
We don't cover Washington, but yeah.
But yeah, they're involved in the mix. Not good if you're not wearing blue. So anyway, that was the worst intro ever. We're gonna get,
it really was.
That was pretty bad. We do have all three of us here. There has been two recently.
The band's back together.
So
apparently that doesn't help.
Yeah. We'll go with that. We're all back together and we have some games to talk about. So,
nice.
Tony, be the first one here. Green Central against a team we have talked about, extremely hot, Farmville Central. Undefeated.
Yeah. I've seen Farmville Central play twice this year, and I think I was more impressed the second time. And the thing that's kind of gotten overlooked because the offense is so explosive, defensively they've been really good. They go up 35 points to Aiden Griffin last week, but 14 of those came in a totally meaningless fourth quarter when the game was already well decided. Second strings were in at that point. I think, like I said, that defense gets overlooked because they are so explosive offensively and because they can hit you with the pass, they can hit you with the run. They got so many different weapons. But, defensively that team's playing well. I think Coach Gardner would probably shout that defense out a little bit. Kind of the way that he had some choice words for you, Ronnie, last week. After you picked against them, he said, be careful about picking against the Jaguars the rest of the year. So I think you should heed those words.
I was going to own up to it. I was going to wait for my segment here and lick my wounds. But we'll get there in a minute. Okay. I assume you're going to take the Jaguars.
Yeah, I feel like the Green Central team is coming in to Farmville, 1-3. Farmville Central's flying high. No real injuries to speak of that I know of. I mean, it seems like they're just running at full tilt right now. I think they'll keep it going and move to 5-0.
Okay, Jim?
I've been on this Farmville Central train all season, picked them every week. I'm not going to change my pick now. I just don't see this being a real contest for them playing at home.
All right, yeah, I'm late to the party, I guess you could say. my upset pick last week failed miserably.
Quickly, too. Like, within the first quarter and a half, the game was over.
So, shout out to the Jaguars. I'll own that. I'll admit it. I'm picking you now. I might pick you the rest of the season. We'll see. But
it's going to be hard. How do you pick against
them
at this point?
Yeah.
I mean, the way they're playing, the closest game was a 17, 18-point game against Plymouth.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's a really good team
at
their place where they never lose.
Yep.
It's just I think it's a no-brainer at this point.
Yeah.
I want to see the team that could beat them. At this point, it's
Washington's in that league. It is a good league.
Exactly.
I think Washington Farmville is going to be a showdown.
Oh, yeah, that's gonna be
I don't know who I'm going to pick in that, but that's going to be a huge game. Next game, Jim. Speaking of Aiden Griffin, which is still trying to rebound from last week. It hosts Pamlico County, maybe the closest game we have this week.
Yeah, I think that's what both teams are 2-2, and I think Aiden Griffin's still trying to figure out what kind of team they are. They're kind of go back and forth each week. Obviously, some of that is depending on who you're playing. When you play against Farmville Central and Conley, two teams that are just really talented this season. But they're playing at home, and this is one of those deals where. That 3-2 going into we're getting ready to hit the second half of that season. It looks a lot better than 2-3.
Yeah.
And we know the Chargers can score, and they've done it. It's just a matter of putting it all together on both sides, and it's tough to get a good read on them because when they lose, they tend to lose big with the losses to Conley and Farmville, right?
Yeah, that is right. Yeah.
But I think they're going to really be helped out by playing at home this week.
Yeah, I agree. That, as I said, a close game. So who are you going to pick in that one?
I think Aiden Griffin's defense comes out big in this game.
Okay.
I think they shut down Pamlico and get a victory. I think it'll be close, but I see the Chargers being 3-2 after this week.
All right. I'm still a little sour from my Chargers last week, but I'm going to go with Aiden Griffin at home. I agree. I think this is a really good game, and as you said, an important game for both teams. I think it's going to be close. If it was at Pamlico, would probably reverse that. I'm a little hesitant, but I'll take Aiden Griffin in a close one.
I saw the Pamlico-Farmville Central game, and Pamlico has a huge running back whose name is escaping me right now, but that kid was really tough to tackle. That being said, he was the only weapon that offense really seemed to have. When they tried to pass the ball, it didn't really work out. They were kind of one-dimensional. The kid is big. The kid can really fly. He's a good player. But I feel like, as Jim kind of alluded to, Aiden Griffin's defense can kind of stack the front, shut that guy down, and I feel like that'll be a win for Aiden Griffin. Like you said, I think the defense will lead the way in that game.
And that is their strength, right?
Totally.
In the middle of their defense.
With Justin,
Justin Brown, Jake Wright's a really good player. That front seven's pretty good.
Yep.
That makes me feel better. That's a good point.
You should pick Aiden Griffin the rest of the year no matter what now.
Good point out, Tony. I'll take the next game. I covered the Rampants last week. on a Thursday, I believe.
Uh-huh.
But Rose is
of
going
all
to
that rain.
Kinston. Yeah, and Kinston's 2-2. Rose is 4-0. Tough stretch for Kinston, man. They just lost to Havelock, which we all know how good Havelock is. Then they played Rose. Fike was mixed in there. I mean, this is a really rough road for Kinston. Another scheduling note with Rose, they play Conley next week. We know what that's about. I mean, so this is an interesting week for Rose and Conley probably, because you know that game's in the back of their head.
Of course it is.
They want to get to next Friday probably as quick as possible and get that rivalry renewed and get all the bad blood, the good blood, whatever, and kind of get that shaken out. But you do have to play this Friday. So the Rampants, I think mentally this is an interesting game. You got to go to Kinston. You got to take care of business, get back home, and then worry about Conley.
Right.
So I think it could be a stumbling block, but I'm going with the Rampants. I think they're too good.
Yeah.
They could probably have their B game or C game, especially on offense, and still score 30, 40 points and win. So, like I said, it's an interesting matchup, but I think Rose is too good.
Yeah, the potential for Rose to overlook, Kinston looking ahead to Conley is certainly there, as it would be for any team at any level. But as you also mentioned, Ronnie, I feel like they could maybe run their second team out there and still be too explosive. That offense is so powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, they're putting up numbers that are just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're averaging a game, but it's got to be close to 45, I would say. I mean,
I think
they've
it's
been
right,
over.
yeah.
They've been over 50. They score. They score a lot of points every week. I don't think that's going to stop this week. I think Cornell Powell and those guys are going to get it done and come back with a big win.
All right, Jim.
Oh, I'm going to go with Rose in this one too. You mentioned Kinston's tough schedule. They played Hamlet, they play Rose, then they got to go to Washington next week. I mean, and we talked about how tough they are.
Brutal.
So it's a tough stretch for them, and I think Rose could overlook this game and still win this one. I mean, like you guys mentioned, the level of talents there, and they're coming off such an impressive, dominating performance off Rocky Mountain on the road.
Which we thought would be a tough game.
Yeah, they blew that game out.
Yeah, I mean, it was just it was never in question. So I think it's one of those deals where you got to pick Rose in this one. I think they're a heavy favorite.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Tony, I believe our next game is South Central, 3-0 South Central. Kind of forgotten, but they're undefeated too.
Yeah.
Travels to Hertford County.
Playing well and coming off the bye week, if I'm not mistaken. Did they play?
They bye and then North Pitt.
Okay,
so a recent bye week.
Gotcha. And I mean, you've got to feel like that's a confident team right now.
Yeah.
They got well at home. They got to kind of get a sense of who they are. Offensively, it feels like things are really clicking. I mean, they had to throw that quarterback in at the last minute in the season opener. That's working out okay.
Yeah.
Furlow is obviously doing what he does. That team is confident. I don't feel like that is going to diminish any with them going on the road. I feel like they'll take what they've done at home and do that at Hertford County too. I think they'll get a win.
Okay. Jim, are you going to agree?
Oh yeah, definitely. They're talking about a South Central team that's very confident right now.
Yeah.
They beat up on Hertford County last year. I think we see more of the same. I think it says a lot that we still have 3 undefeated teams in the county.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible.
It's pretty impressive. And I just think South Central goes to 4-0. I think they're just going to be tough to stop. They won big against North Pitt last week, and Furlow only had to carry the ball 9 times.
Yeah.
So so he's still well rested.
Yeah.
And that's after coming off a bye week. So I'd be shocked if the Falcons lost this game. I think they'll come back with a big win.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I was going to mention the 9 carries thing. Bye week, you think is probably arrested Furlow, and that was good for them last week.
Yeah.
They'd won some close games early in the year. They kind of got a blowout, kind of pulled away against North Pitt last week. So I think they're in good shape. I think they go to Hertford. I'll pick the Falcons as well to win.
And that's like 6 out of 7. The last 7 games they've won.
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
Right? Dating back to last season.
Yeah, they closed strong last year. I think went 4-2 maybe their last 6 games last year. Now killing it. So yeah, they're a lot of momentum right now, centering around South Central's program. Last game, Jim, DH Conley still kind of searching what's going on with Conley, even though they are 3-1. But they go to a winless West Craven team.
That's weird. Doesn't that sound weird to hear a winless West Craven team?
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of those teams that we're used to seeing. They're usually a tough opponent.
4 games in for sure.
Yeah. And then the teams they lost to, they were pretty good. They lost to Washington, Newbern, and then South Central team getting that big win against them.
Yeah.
So it's the competition's been nothing to sneeze at. But this is why we say this could be an easy game to look over for Conley, because you're 3-1. And then you're facing a winless team who's struggling right now. But with Conley's, the number of weapons they have and the way they run the ball, it's just so tough to envision them going down there and losing at this point. I've just been really impressed Granted, they had the loss to a really good Washington team, but overall, we're talking about them being 3-1. So we got the 3 undefeated teams, and we got another team there.
Yeah.
Between the what are those teams? Like 14-1 or something like that at this point.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just another team that's kind of really rolling right now.
Yep, I agree. Are you picking the Vikings?
Oh yeah, I think you got to. You look at what Wes Craven did against Washington. That was a blowout win for Washington, and
Yeah,
Washington and Conley played each other really tight. So at Washington, so I think if we just looked at, if nothing else, if we just looked at common opponents, it's pretty clear that Conley's probably got the edge, a big edge in talent.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm going to go with Conley as well. I think it could be close. As you said, this is maybe a sneaky game, kind of like I said with Rose as well. But I think Conley's too good. I'll go with the Vikes.
Wes Craven's going to be hungry. They'll be playing at home. Weird things happen in Vanceboro, guys. I don't know. I don't know how much time you spent there, but boy. But no, seriously, I feel like this might be the closest game of the week. The records wouldn't indicate that, but the fact that Conley has built big leads and saw them dwindle and then had to hang on at the end. That being said, in some of those games, they have been able to hang on at the end.
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't know how that offense is going to translate on the road. I don't know how good Wes Craven's defense is. All that being said, I can't really pick against the Vikings, but I think that's going to be a close game. They're going to have to fight for that one.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement when we're picking Conley, but yeah, Wes Craven wouldn't shock us. I wouldn't think if Wes Craven would win.
Not at all.
I think it's a good game. One of the maybe few good games we have probably this week. But as we mentioned, some good games this week, and certainly there's a big one next week. But make sure you check out this week's games first, and then we'll see you back next week.